story time about how my boyfriend forces me to follow his rules in order to be his girlfriend. Disclaimers is not my story time. I said me on Instagram. We've been together for 2 years now. I feel like everyone says this, but the relationship was really good at the beginning. For the first 6 months, everything was totally fine. We had a lot of fun together. We would go out on double dates with all of our friends. We even started our own business together. After he asked me to move in with him is when everything became a nightmare. A little backstory on him. His parents didn't really care about his hygiene or their house when he was growing up. He tells me that his house was really messy, that their house was never taken care of, and that his mom is pretty much a hoarder. Now, I don't know if any of this is true because he doesn't speak to his parents anymore, so I'm assuming that it is. He told me that as a kid, he used to feel really ashamed of people coming over to his house and that he would always be cleaning up after his parents. As you can imagine, now that he's an adult, he controls everything around him. His apartment is perfect. He lives in a high-rise and his apartment is beautiful. I should say our apartment, but everything is always clean and perfect. And if it's not like that, he gets in a really bad mood. I'm talking super angry. He's never become physical, but sometimes I think he wants to. This is when the rules started. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how my boyfriend forces me to follow his rules in order to be his girlfriend. Disclaimers is not my story time. I said me on Instagram. After I moved in with him and realized how much of a clean freak he is, he started implementing some rules. At first, he just said it very casually. For example, he asked me not to touch his clothes. In other words, he never wanted me to do his laundry or even fold them for him. When I went into his closet, he had a very meticulous way of putting everything away. All of his drawers were labeled. He had specific mugs for coffee. By mistake, I used a different type of mug and he actually threw that mug away. He said that it was probably going to get stained and there was no point in keeping it. When I asked him why he was so specific about all these things, he told me his anxiety would act up if I didn't do these things. So I did exactly what he wanted me to do. After a few weeks of me moving in, he handed me this booklet. In it, he had typed out all of the house rules, also a section that said girlfriend rules. For example, he didn't like me wearing short skirts. He didn't like me having long nails. He didn't like when I wore my hair in a bun. Also, if we were out with people, he would only let me sit on his left side because that's his better side. After a few days of me trying to follow the rules, I accidentally broke one. I forgot to use a coaster on the coffee table and he ended up kicking me out that day. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how my boyfriend forces me to follow his rules in order to be his girlfriend. Disclaimer is not my story time. I said me on Instagram. After he kicked me out for not using a coaster of all things, I went straight to my parents' house. When I told my parents about the booklet, they thought he was legitimately crazy. A few days later, he begged me to go back and I did. He even added new things to the list. For example, I have to clean the air fryer every single time I use it. There can be no dirty dishes in the kitchen at any time. And when it comes to the girlfriend rules, he bought me a perfume that he really likes and I hate it. But I can't say no to wearing it because he gets angry. He also doesn't want me bringing any of my friends over. My best friend forgot to recycle a pizza box the last time she was at our place, and ever since then he talks trash about her. I know I should leave him, but I still do love him, and I really think that he needs help. But I have started looking for my own apartment. I live by those stupid rules and I'm terrified of breaking one. My hair has even started falling out because of it. What should I do?
Am I wrong for demanding my girlfriend to change her dress for a wedding? This happened during this weekend, me being in my early 30s and my girlfriend in her late 20s. I was invited to a wedding ceremony of a colleague and I could bring someone with me. I asked my girlfriend that I've been dating for a year if she would like to join me, and she was really happy because she apparently loves weddings. Since we don't live together, I drove to pick her up so we'd have some time to spare before the ceremony. She's also wearing an off-white dress that was rather ornate. As she comes out, she looks really beautiful and has obviously put in time to fix her hair and makeup. As she got in, I told her she looked stunning, but I asked if she could change into a different colored dress for the ceremony. I'm not one for etiquette by far, but one of the few things I have heard everywhere is that you should not wear white to a wedding, unless you're the bride. She became pretty upset and wanted to know what was wrong with her dress. I said that it would be inappropriate to wear a white or off-white dress unless you're the bride, and that it's like wedding law or something, trying to be lighthearted about it. She rolled her eyes and said that it was an outdated tradition about women and virginity, and that when her friends got married, everyone wore white and that it's not a big thing anymore. I still thought she should change to another color but white or almost white because my colleague was getting married and we had no idea how she felt about it. My girlfriend became really upset and told me I was trying to control what she was wearing and that it was abusive. Which honestly made me really upset and hurt. I said something along the lines of, "Duck, well, you shouldn't go to a wedding with an abuser then." And then I told her to get the F out of my car. She began to cry and wanted to apologize and give me a hug. But I just told her to get out, which she did. To clarify, we never left the driveway by her home. I did not drop her off in the middle of nowhere or anything like that. I drove off and she called and texted me a bunch. I answered, "I don't want to talk right now," and then turned my phone off and attended the ceremony. The bride was the only one that was wearing white, so I feel as if my gut feeling was in the right. When I got home, my phone had blown up by text from her and her best friend saying that I was being inconsiderate and controlling and should apologize for my behavior. I feel as if I was in the right since it was my colleague's wedding and it was better to be safe than sorry.
Story time on how my boyfriend got my mom pregnant. Okay, so boom, let's jump right into it. My disgusting boyfriend and backstabbing mom were unusually close. They would talk and text on the phone all the time. But of course, I didn't think my mother would hook up with my boyfriend. To make a long story short, when my boyfriend would come over and hang out, there's times where I would go to ballet class. And my boyfriend and mom would be home alone. I would be in ballet class and my dad would be at work. And I bet you think I found out. Nope. My mom was pregnant and I was thinking my dad was obviously the father. And of course, at first, my dad thought so too. Oh, but no. Once my sister came, my dad was suspicious of my mom, so he did a paternity test. The results came back and guess what? It wasn't his. Oh, but it gets worse. My dad walked in on my boyfriend and my mom. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how my boyfriend got my mom pregnant. Okay, so boom, like I said, my dad didn't think my new sister was his, so he took a paternity test. He was right, it was not his. But what takes the cake, even though my mom wasn't supposed to be doing the do, when my dad pulled up with the paternity test early, he walked in and seen my boyfriend and my mom. My dad was more so disgusted than even shocked. My dad told me, I was shocked, I cried, but then me and my dad moved out together and now I have a new amazing stepmom. I don't talk to my sister and my boyfriend eventually left my mom, so now she just looks stupid and alone. And my boyfriend is a bum, so he has literally nothing going on for himself. My dad and I don't talk to my mom, but I kind of feel bad for my sister. It's not her fault, but I don't want a relationship with her. Am I wrong?
I, 28, like many women, have learned due to the pandemic, I don't have to dress up to society's ridiculous beauty standards. Before, I used to dress to the nines and made sure that I was always wearing heavy makeup, James Charles Dicky Tutorials level of makeup, and made sure that my skin was unblemished and as smooth as a baby's skin, and we're not even going to get started on my hair situation. Well, my husband, 30, is annoyed by this. He said he liked my old look and he's embarrassed to go out with me now that I've decided to be a lazy slob. I told him that I still dress up when we go to dinner and dates, and when we have important occasions. I just don't feel like wearing makeup and heels to go to the grocery store or clean the toilet anymore. He said it wasn't that hard to put on some makeup and shave, so I told him that if he thought so, then to prove it. Go through the same treatment I go through to look good, as he put it. He agreed because if I've been doing it for years, how hard could it be? He learned how painful waxing is soon after. He learned how long it takes a woman with thick, long, waist-length hair to wash, dry, and style it. He learned how uncomfortable wearing certain outfits every day was for me, and since he wanted me to start wearing makeup, he had to as well. He was in too deep, so he let me do his makeup. I didn't go full drag, I only did some stuff that would enhance his features, yet show him how much effort goes into makeup. Needless to say, after a full day of this, he told me that he was sorry and didn't realize how much work I put into my appearance. I told him to imagine now the women who go around getting lip fillers and Botox. He laughed and said thank God I wasn't that high maintenance. We both had a laugh about it and I felt like I proved my point. Here's the issue. He was talking to his sisters and told them what I did, which they found hilarious because they too also feel it's about time men understand how much work women put into their looks. Well, he told his mom what I did and now she's been calling and texting me about how I abused her son, how it's a woman's duty to look good for her husband and how I'm gonna drive him away by being a lazy slob, and to not be surprised when I end up divorced or cheated on. I ignored her, but my husband's now defending me from his mother and she's mad that he's defending me.